Arcadian Vanguard presents The Wrestling News and your daily wrestling newscast for Saturday, October 1st, 2022. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with the passing of one of professional wrestling's most successful figures, Antonio Inoki, one of Japan's most revered sporting figures of all time, passed away last night at his home in Japan. He was 79 years old. The news of Inoki's passing was broken by Yahoo Japan. Heart failure was the cause of death, according to a report in newspaper Asahi Shimbun. Inoki, the founder of New Japan Pro Wrestling and a former elected member of Japan's House of Councilors, had been in ill health in recent years. Born Kanji Inoki in Yokohama City in 1943, he was a protege of Japan's first major wrestling superstar Rikidozan, breaking into the professional ranks on September 30th, 1960. He debuted on the same night as Giant Baba, his future tag team partner and a career-long professional rival. Following Rikidozan's death, Inoki toured the United States in 1964 and 1965, after which he was approached by Tanyanbori with the idea of leaving JWA, the company that had been founded by his late mentor. They would start a new wrestling promotion named Tokyo Pro Wrestling. The enterprise lasted only 2 tours, and in 1967, Inoki returned to JWA, forming a tag team with Giant Baba. The two were Japan's biggest wrestling stars. In 1972, Inoki formed New Japan Pro Wrestling after being fired from the JWA for an alleged attempted coup. Inoki built his company around what he called strong style, incorporating various forms of martial arts to make his product as realistic and believable as possible. With Giant Baba's All Japan Pro Wrestling already having an affiliation with the National Wrestling Alliance, Inoki was forced to create his own governing body and to purchase or create his own world championships. Inoki and New Japan also formed a relationship with the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, Vince McMahon Sr.'s company, booking foreign wrestlers for New Japan. Internationally, Inoki's sporting fame peaked on June 26, 1976, when he famously faced off against legendary boxing champion Muhammad Ali inside Tokyo's Sumo Hall. In what is now considered by many to be the precursor to mixed martial arts fights, the fight was planned to be a worked affair. Ali's side panicked before the fight, demanding rule changes which led to Inoki crab walking and kicking Ali's legs for 15 rounds. Inoki had a brief run with the Worldwide Wrestling Federation World Championship in 1979, but that title reign was not recognized outside of Japan. Inoki had also previously purchased the NWF World Championship in order to make himself the title holder and to bring the belt back to Japan. In 1989, Inoki formed the Sports and Peace Party and was elected to the House of Councilors in Japan's National Diet. Before the start of the Gulf War, Inoki received attention for liberating Japanese hostages in Iraq after direct negotiations with Saddam Hussein and his son Uday in 1990. Inoki has been credited with 41 people being released. He served until 1995 and was re-elected in 2013, this time representing the Japanese Restoration Party, serving until 2019. In 1995, Inoki promoted an event in North Korea at Pyongyang Stadium in front of 190,000 people, the largest live crowd to ever witness a pro wrestling event. He defeated Ric Flair in the main event. Inoki would retire as a wrestler on April 4th, 1998, in front of a sellout crowd at the Tokyo Dome, defeating Don Frye. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, to that point, the approximately $7 million gate and $2.6 million in merchandise sales were all-time pro wrestling records. Inoki always carried with him the philosophy that professional wrestlers should be viewed amongst the best athletes in the world who compete in the preeminent fighting style. Through his work-shoot fights and in-ring exploits, Inoki's pro wrestling be strongest mentality brought him fame and helped elevate New Japan Pro Wrestling to great heights. But as the 2000s began, mixed martial arts grew as a fighting art, and the discipline's dedicated fighters quickly became much more well-rounded. This would lead to problems within New Japan Pro Wrestling, as Inoki's insistence that his professional wrestlers take MMA fights began to backfire with an embarrassing series of one-sided losses that eroded the public's faith in the legitimacy of pro wrestlers as fighters. One of the most infamous occurred on December 31st, 2001, when Inoki promoted his own mixed martial arts event. In the night's main event, New Japan wrestler Yuji Nagata was knocked unconscious in 21 seconds by kickboxer Mirko Cro Cop. Nagata, a standout collegiate wrestler who was being groomed to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship days later at the company's biggest show of the year at the Tokyo Dome on January 4th, was thoroughly humbled, and his professional wrestling career suffered badly. Inoki's insistence that his professional wrestlers continue to train as hybrid fighters, who are also versed in mixed martial arts, continued to create issues towards the end of his ownership with New Japan. Weeks after shockingly winning the IWGP title, on December 31st, 2003, during another nationally televised New Year's Eve MMA event, rookie wrestler Shinsuke Nakamura, who Inoki was trying to rebuild the company's Inokiism philosophy around, made it into the third round against K1 fighter Alexei Ignashov before a knee strike to the face abruptly ended the fight. With morale falling and the company's image at a then all-time low, wrestlers began openly rebelling against the influence of mixed martial arts on the company's style. In January 2004, Keiji Muto left the promotion to assume control of All Japan Pro Wrestling, taking top heavyweight wrestler Satoshi Kojima, top junior heavyweight wrestler Kendo Kashin, and several office personnel with him. Years later, Nakamura's generational rival Hiroshi Tanahashi would admit that he was also encouraged to leave Inoki, but chose to stay. Inoki remained in control of New Japan until 2005, when he sold his controlling interest in the promotion to video game manufacturer Yuke's. After the sale, Inoki would create the Inoki Genome Federation, which attempted to be a hybrid pro wrestling and MMA company. Once again, legendary professional wrestler and patriarch of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Antonio Inoki has passed away due to heart failure at his home in Japan. He was 79 years old. Turning to last night's Smackdown Live on Fox from the Canada Life Center in Winnipeg, Manitoba, the main event saw the team of Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and Johnny Gargano defeat Austin Theory and Alpha Academy when McIntyre pinned Theory after a Claymore kick. McIntyre whipped Theory with a leather strap after the match, foreshadowing his upcoming strap match with Karrion Kross next weekend at Extreme Rules.
Claymore from out of nowhere! Cover on Theory! McIntyre Owens and Johnny win! McIntyre's got the leather strap in his hand!
There's no need for this!
Next Saturday night, McIntyre and Karrion Kross in a strap match!
It's Austin Theory, not Karrion Kross!
It doesn't matter because next Saturday night, McIntyre and Kross will be tied together with a leather strap in a strap match at Extreme Rules. Time may be ticking on Karrion Kross.
The six-man main event had been made earlier in the show after McIntyre beat Theory in a singles match by disqualification when interference from the Alpha Academy brought out both Gargano and Owens to help McIntyre even the odds. In the opening match, the Bloodline pairing of Sami Zayn and Solo Sikoa defeated Ricochet and Madcap Moss when Sikoa pinned Moss. SmackDown Women's Champion Liv Morgan got into a post-match brawl with Ronda Rousey following Rousey's victory over Natalya, with Morgan bringing a baseball bat into the ring. The two women will meet in a street fight at Extreme Rules. In other results, Hit Row defeated Los Lotharios and Bayley pinned Shotzi. Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair saved Shotzi from a post-match beating at the hands of Bayley. Also during the show, the Imperium trio of Ludwig Kaiser, Giovanni Vinci, and Intercontinental Champion Gunther attacked Sheamus 3-on-1 during an in-ring promo segment, and Max Dupree appeared to leave the Maximum Male Models faction, hinting at a return to his LA Knight character. AEW Rampage also aired last night on TNT, featuring matches taped Wednesday night at the Liacouras Center in Philadelphia. Anthony Bowens and Max Caster of The Acclaim started off the show with their first successful defense of the AEW World Tag Team title, winning a triple threat against Private Party and The Butcher and the Blade. The Acclaim won the gold from Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee last week at Dynamite Grand Slam. In the main event, Roosh pinned John Silver of the Dark Order. Also on the show, Jamie Hayter beat Willow Nightingale, and Lee Moriarty picked up a quick win over Fuego del Sol. With more AEW news, here's the Wrestling News' Lou Kipilman.
Roosh has officially signed with AEW. according to a tweet made yesterday by Tony Khan. The popular luchador had been performing for AEW on a per-appearance basis since June. Bandito was also offered an AEW contract by Tony Khan following his Wednesday night match with Ring of Honor World Champion Chris Jericho in the main event of Dynamite, according to a report in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. A former Ring of Honor World Champion who'd previously been signed to ROH prior to Tony Khan's purchase of the company, the masked luchador has been an independent free agent for much of 2022. Appearing for GCW, AAA, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Impact, and MLW, among other organizations. It is not confirmed whether Bandito has accepted AEW's offer. For the wrestling news, I'm Lou Kipilman.
Next Wednesday's Dynamite on TBS will be an extended edition with an extra 15 minutes of airtime, according to another Tony Khan Twitter announcement yesterday. The extended time is in recognition of the 3rd anniversary of AEW Dynamite. The show will emanate from the Entertainment and Sports Arena in Washington, D.C., the same city which hosted Dynamite's debut episode on October 2nd, 2019, from the Capital One Arena. Looking ahead to AEW's Full Gear pay-per-view, tickets for the November 19th show, set to take place at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, are selling more slowly than is typical for an AEW pay-per-view, according to a report in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. A total of 9,779 tickets had been distributed as of yesterday, out of just over 12,000 available. Although the event is still 7 weeks away and on track to sell out, it is taking a lot longer to do so than most AEW pay-per-views, which have tended to sell out quickly. Tickets on the secondary market are currently starting at $58, but it was noted that demand is not as heavy as for past AEW pay-per-views. Former WWE talent and co-founder of the Concussion Legacy Foundation, Chris Nowinski, gave a talk to the AEW roster about concussions and the danger of CTE prior to last Wednesday's Dynamite tapings, according to a tweet yesterday from AEW's physician, Dr. Michael Sampson. Sampson publicly thanked Nowinski for his presentation, designed to instruct talent on avoiding brain injury. Nowinski responded by thanking Sampson, Tony Khan, as well as WWE, Triple H, the NWA, and Billy Corrigan for allowing him to speak to their rosters in the past. Nowinski and the CLF have worked directly with WWE on their concussion protocols since 2013, and Paul Triple H Levesque serves on the CLF board of directors. Prior to his partnership, the organization was highly critical of the WWE's concussion safety measures and has also been similarly outspoken toward the NFL and other sports entities. Nowinski's WWE career was cut short in 2003 when he suffered a concussion from an accident in the ring involving Edge and Rey Mysterio during the 2003 Royal Rumble. Since then, he's been described by many, including Vice and Sports Illustrated, as one of the main influences in recent years on raising awareness of the dangers of CTE in sports. With injury news, here is the Wrestling News' Lou Kipilman.
Randy Orton's back injury continues to be an issue for the 20-year WWE veteran, with some within the company concerned about his future, according to a report in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Orton has spent more than 4 months away from the ring in order to heal, but the injury has progressively gotten worse and will likely require surgery, according to the report. At the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion earlier this week in Las Vegas, Bob Orton Jr. told the Wrestling News' Brian Solomon that his son does plan on getting the surgery and is looking to extend his in-ring career by another 5 or 6 years. The surgery would likely keep him out of action for at least the remainder of 2022. Orton last wrestled on the May 20th Smackdown, teaming with Matt Riddle in the Raw Smackdown Tag Team Title Unification match against the Usos. Orton's back problems were already ongoing at that time, and it was reported that he had taken some time off to help the injury heal as much as possible, going into that match. Orton had originally been scheduled to challenge WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns at SummerSlam in August, but was replaced by Brock Lesnar. For the Wrestling News, I'm Lou Kipilman.
Tony D'Angelo is expected to be out of action for another 5 to 7 weeks, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. The NXT performer tweaked his knee during a match with Wes Lee at the September 14th NXT TV taping. The match was a qualifier for the North American Championship ladder match scheduled for NXT Halloween Havoc on Saturday, October 22nd. The injury is not believed to be serious and will reportedly not require surgery. Turning to Japan, New Japan Pro Wrestling announced this morning that Jonah will not be appearing at this weekend's Royal Quest shows in London due to travel issues stemming from Hurricane Ian. As a result, changes have been made to the card. On night 1, Zack Knight now takes Jonah's place and will team with Bad Dude Tito to face off against Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada. On night 2, Jonah's singles match with Tomohiro Ishii is now listed as Ishii against a mystery opponent. Also, at Friday's Pro Wrestling Noah show in Okuma, Fukushima, Masakatsu Funaki made the 5th defense of his GHC National Heavyweight title by defeating Masa Kitamiya with a sleeper hold. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast, and remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.